So as we're studying the literary approach, reading, and themes of Scripture, one of the things that you'll find in many stories of the Bible is what I call the story within the story. I don't know if you've ever had a really expensive sheet of paper that you hold up to the light and there's like a watermark that you can see. I think many of the stories of the Bible are building upon stories that we should know had we read the Old Testament, and the New Testament sort of is under the assumption that we do know the Old Testament. And so you'll find in reading the Bible through a literary way that there will be stories that are retold and rebranded through new stories that make them even richer. Doesn't take away from the historicity, doesn't take away from the truthfulness of the story, but what it does is it's written in a way that sort of makes you think, if you're paying attention, if you're a reader that understands, it broadens and deepens the story that you're reading. One of those is found in the Gospel of Mark. And the story is Jesus in the boat in the middle of the storm. So let's look at the story here and let's see if we can maybe hear a story within a story, and then I'll draw your attention to it. And I think that the conclusions that we come to are pretty profound. Let's look at the story here. It says, on that day when evening had come, he said to them, let's go across to the other side. And leaving the crowd, again, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I've said in other videos that the crowd in Mark is never a good thing. The crowd's always keeping people from Jesus. That is a Markan theme. So just remember that when you read the Gospel of Mark. But leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was, and the other boats were with him. I think this little thing here is just Mark's way of saying, hey, this story actually happened because there were other people out in the water at the time. There's no throwaway words in Scripture. I almost feel like Mark's like going, hey, by the way, this really happened. So, and a great windstorm arose. That's a key to the story here. A windstorm arose while Jesus and the disciples were in a boat. And the waves were breaking into the boat so that the boat was already filling. So we've got this boat that is in a windstorm, and the waves are hitting it so much, the wind's blowing, that the boat's starting to fall apart, that things are not well. All of the things you can think of if you've ever boated, or even if you haven't boated, you can sort of imagine these wooden boats, how they would be taking on water, and the wind's blowing, the waves are going. This is not a good moment to be at in time. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. If you're an astute Old Testament person, you might start hearing a story here. So we've got a boat that's being sort of thrashed by the wind and the waves, and they need help. And so they need Jesus, right? So where's Jesus? Well, he's asleep on the cushion. So they woke him and said, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" That's interesting, isn't it? Because so often in our lives, when we're going through difficulties, we wonder, where is Jesus at? Does he even care? And here he is in the boat. And eventually he's going to solve the problem for them. But sometimes we think that way, don't we? God, where are you at? Do you not even care about us? And it says, he awoke and he rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased. This is important here. The wind ceased and there was a great calm. Best way I can say it is this, is if you could imagine being in a massive thunderstorm out in the water, waves going crazy, white caps, boat, whatever, and Jesus awakes, rebukes the wind and the waves, and it goes absolutely calm. Glass. That's the picture here. And he said to them, "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with a great fear and said to one another, "Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Obviously, Jesus is more than a man. But the story, within the story, you have to go back to the Old Testament. And that story is the story of Jonah. Jonah too had gotten a boat, right? And remember, the storm came up. And of course, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know who had caused the storm. They were trying to figure out what was going on. And they remembered that a guy named Jonah had gotten the boat that was running from his God. Where was Jonah? Well, he was asleep in the middle of the storm, just like Jesus. So when they wake Jonah up, Jonah says to them, hey, the only way this is going to stop is you're going to have to throw me over. In other words, my death will create peace for you. So they throw Jonah over the boat, and what happens? Peace. Why? Because Jonah's God, which is Yahweh, calms the storm. Well, Mark retells that story with Jesus. And all of this is historical because there were other boats with him. I mean, he's not making up a story here, but he's retelling it in a way where Jesus is fulfilling all of the Old Testament. Surprise, Jesus says that. He says the Old Testament's about him in John 5. So this is not surprising. In Luke 24, he says the law and the prophets are all about him. So he's fulfilling everything in Scripture. Well, he's asleep. They wake him up, and what happens? Well, he rebukes the wind and the waves, and what happens? Peace. So Mark asks a question that the disciples asked, that we should ask. Who is this that even the wind and sea obey him? The correct answer is that the God, Yahweh, that calmed the storm in Jonah's day is actually in the boat in the person of Jesus. He's not just a man, he's also God. And knowing the story within the story makes this powerful. Hey, Chip here. I just want to take a moment and say thanks so much for watching Reaching the Next Generation. I really hope that this was something that was beneficial to you. And what I would ask, if you really enjoyed this, would you like it? Would you subscribe to it? Would you give us some comments? And most importantly, would you share it? I believe with all of my heart that the material and the content that we have on this channel truly can make a difference and resource pastors and leaders and Christians, and you can help us to truly help others to reach the next generation. Thanks so much for being a part of our channel.